Welcome back to the Your Invisible Advantage podcast. It's me, T, and today I have one of my favorite guests ever with me and one of my favorite humans, the one, the only Hayley Lloyd. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. So most people will already know, but Hayley was actually my coach. So back in 2023, I was going through some shit internally and with business, and everything was just taking off. And Hayley was the person that I turned to. So she is truly just...
I've been behind the scenes and all of it.
She knows all everything. Of it. She sees all. And when I was thinking about guests to have on my podcast, I was like, all right, who do I want on? And you were literally in my first top 3. Yes. And the fact that you're literally my third guest so far is, if I would have had you as my first, I would have, but you just weren't available.
The timing wasn't, the timing wasn't there, so.
But thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to have you. So I obviously have a series going on with my podcast called Conversations with Success. So with this series, what I really want to do is get people on who are super successful in their own right, whatever that looks like. And they're entrepreneurs, they're business people, they are doing big things with their work and very purpose-driven. And I love people who have not had a linear path, which no one has. I think people love to think they'll have it, but never goes that way. Yep. And you have had quite a turbulent and also amazing journey. It's been up, down, around, and every which way. So something that I really want to talk to you about today is, of course, your pivots and your courage to keep pivoting and keep evolving and changing and growing. So essentially, I would do your story, but I say this to every single guest is I'm not going to do it justice. I'm not going to tell people the story the way that you would, the creator. So I would love if you have cliff notes of from where you were to where you are now, just the base version, and then we'll start to go into it.
Base version's going to be hard for me,
You're
Taylor.
I'm going to be here for 3
Do you know
hours.
me? Okay, so I guess everything starts from when I was training actually to be a digital designer. So that was where I first was in my career. I went to university, trained as a graphic designer in visual communication, and then went into my first job as a digital designer, basically learned how to create apps, UI, UX for app design, and then went into organic marketing, specifically around still app development and products and stuff. And worked in the UK for about 6 years, set up my own design agency when I was there, and basically got to a stage where I realized, okay, corporate life isn't for me. I'm going to try to set this up for myself. And alongside this agency, tried to set up my first coaching business where I was actually teaching people to design. And this was about 10 years ago now, between 8 and 10 years ago. And I basically created all of the material, did everything that I possibly could, created the program, created the course, created all of the graphics and everything, but then launched and not a single person bought. And because my, what I call inner authority was so low, I took that as a personal reflection on myself. I was I'm not good enough. People hate me. All of the wounds that I've been carrying for so long were really activated in that moment. So I decided basically to go back to corporate because I didn't have any resilience to handle any of that discomfort. So basically went back to corporate, then ended up moving to Australia and working for Canva. And I was there for 4 years when it was a small startup. Over 4 years, it grew to thousands of people being at the company, and I was a digital designer there. And, got to see this incredible company grow at this extraordinary pace. And at these kind of unicorn startups, there is very much a way of being, which is if you're not growing, you're dying. And so as the company was growing, we were given these incredible opportunities to grow the brand, to lead teams and everything. And so I was put into those positions, but at the same time, I was you know what, I want to do something more. So decided, because I was experiencing still some of the social anxiety that I had that was still from, had unresolved trauma. A lot of this came up even worse when I was in Australia. And my social anxiety got so bad that it was actually starting to affect my job. So I actually went down a coaching path. And for myself, I was I'm going to learn, what's going on. Realized that I had PTSD at the time. And so ended up being like, okay, I need to be a functioning human in society, I actually need to learn how to manage my emotions. I need to learn how to remove this trauma from my body because it's stopping me from being able to use my voice. It's stopping me from progressing in my career. It's stopping me from doing anything that I want to do because I wanted to take up space, but I was absolutely terrified of using my voice. Found people that were really confident, very triggering because it's what I wanted to do. And the more I went down the coaching path, the more I was like, oh, this is actually what I want to do. So I ended up setting up my own coaching business. Long story short, that ended up scaling and it ended up becoming a 7-figure business. And I was teaching people when we were coaching together, I was specifically teaching people how to start and scale businesses up to like 100K months and beyond by using both inner and outer authority was what I called it. And that was, we scaled to a 7-figure per year business. And I thought that was going really well. You know, I ended up leaving Canva after an incredible career there, and I went full-time in this business. And, you know, for about 2.5 years, things were like going really well. But there was this little thing in the back of my head, which was like, although I'm really good at marketing, like this is everything that I know how to do, like it's what I'm trained in. There was something that was just like nibbling at like my soul, which was like, there is something different that you're meant to be doing. And I have always been like a very spiritual person. I would call it like I was in the spiritual closet at the time. So I like spoke about it
I love that. That's so good.
Yeah. Like I wasn't like talking to anyone about it. I'd speak about it with like my friends, but I was so scared to bring it online because I was like, I'm going to be judged. It's going to take away my reputation. People are going to think that I'm crazy. So I just kind of suppressed this part of myself down, and it came up every so often in a little bit of content or in a training or something, but it was never really like a core part of like my brand, even though actually where a lot of my theories and strategies came from was like this other kind of intelligence, like there was like this very divine connection that I was kind of creating. But anyway, it got to a stage where it was very predictable for me to be able to do a launch and create, you know, we would make between like 200, 300K sales per launch. And so I could very predictably make income. I knew what was going to work, but every single time that I was launching, I just felt like it was so hard. It was so much harder than it needed to be, not because I was necessarily having to put in more work, but because it wasn't what I was enjoying doing anymore. I loved my clients, but the actual doing of that, like trying to do something that you're not quite clicked in alignment with, like I now know is so much harder than it needs to be. And so even if I'm very good at that stuff, that misalignment meant that everything felt very heavy by the end. And it didn't always feel like that. When I first got into it, I was like, this is amazing. It's so much fun. But the more that I started coaching people, I started realizing that, you know what, the majority, I've coached thousands of people now, and the majority of people do not actually have a strategy issue. They have an inner authority issue. And almost every single person, especially at a high level, you know, that were established entrepreneurs that knew how to create content. They know how to create the strategy. I'm giving like little tweaks here and there that, you know, make a marginal difference. But the really big reason that they were capped at like 20K months instead of 100K months had nothing to do with the strategy and the words that they were saying. And it had everything to do with their inner world. It had everything to do with the fear that was coming up every single time that they thought about, you know, going to that next level. Fear of change, fear of responsibility, fear of pressure, fear of visibility. You know, what are people going to think of me? If I make more money, will I lose the love and appreciation of my friends and family? If I take up more space, am I going to be cancelled online? If I have a bigger group of mastermind clients, am I going to be able to hold up and hold the pressure and hold the responsibility? Am I worthy of any of this? Am I worthy to receive this next amount of money? All of those things, it was like this theme that just kept on coming up, and I was getting so frustrated because I was just like, I'm teaching the wrong thing. And like, I'm so much more passionate about talking about that stuff. But it was so easy for me to sell using this other model. And I think this is a place that a lot of people get to, where it's like, you've done something for so long. It's so predictable. The results are there. Everyone around you, and people were saying this to me, you'd be crazy to give that up.
Yeah.
Like, why would you give up like that amount of money? You're making 7 figures a year. Why would you give that up? And sometimes there's like this moment where you need to make a decision for like your future self. Because it's like, are you prepared to continue having that feeling go on in your body, entertaining this like, this like, I want to say dis-ease, but it sounds like disease, but like it is kind of
well,
like—
that's how disease is created. It's exactly. Like dis-ease in the body where you're not actually doing, you know, what you said like before, alignment with what you know you're meant to be doing.
Exactly. And that very much was where I was. It was like this dis-ease that I was feeling constantly. So I eventually decided, I was actually in a launch, and this had never happened to me, but I was 2 weeks into this launch. I'd done like a free training. I'd done the whole process that I'd done consistently. And like usually, you know, I would get a few people that signed up front, and then like some people would join right at the back end. This was the first ever launch that like no one had signed up, not a single person. And I was suspecting like 15, 20 people would sign up. This is a high level mastermind. And we were three to 4 days away from like the end of this launch, and like no one had signed up. And I went to the beach, and I was feeling so anxious because, you know, my whole thing is teaching people to market, yet like no one's showing up. What's happening? And I went to the beach with my partner, and I had like this breakdown where like all of this, like the true feelings came out. And I was just like, if I'm totally honest, I don't even want to be doing this. Like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, I just feel like I'm putting in all of this work, all of this effort, and nothing's even going the way that I want. And I have to ask myself, like, is it not going the way that I want because I don't want it to feel? Like, is there something in me that's blocking this? And I had this big breakdown, I had this revelation, and I made a decision on the beach. I was like, you know what? This is going to be the last launch. I'm going to wrap up this business, and I'm going to shut it down, and I'm going to do something else. And I made that decision on the beach. The very next day, 12 sales came through of high ticket clients in 48 hours. Everyone bought in the last 3 days. So it ended up being about 15 people, ended up being a really big launch, but everyone bought in the final 3 hours. And this is an energy block, right? Like, it wasn't the strategy. It wasn't that I wasn't, you know, saying the right things. It's that something in my energy was holding something back. There was like a, you know, almost like a bubble in my throat where like people can sense that when there's something that's something ethereal that's like there, or like a block that you have, or a fear that you have, something that you're holding back. People can sense that. And even though I was committed in my message, I wasn't showing up with my full like conviction because I wasn't sure of what my path was yet. So as soon as I made this decision, everything came through. And then, you know, a lot of people would be like, well, you know, it's working again. So
I'm going to say, how did you feel about that? It's like, oh shit, now am I really meant to not do this? But was that a moment for you where you were like, oh shit, maybe I should keep this? Or was it just like, no, I know that came through because it's like testing me kind of thing?
It was the latter. Like, I knew that this was a test, and the test came through because I also knew that I needed to stack cash now, because what I wanted to do next was basically create an app and a membership. And there was a lot of risk involved in that, because I need to basically, I'm not going to find funding from anywhere else apart from myself. So I'm going to self-fund this. That means that I need to generate as much cash as I can over the next like few months. And I need to basically create my investment pot for creating an app. And that's basically what I did. I made an unconditional contract with the universe, with the creator. And I was basically just like, you know, you give me this money and I will do this thing that I know that you want me to do. Because everything else was coming through so fast. And it was just like the clarity on like the name came through, the clarity on what it was going to look like, what the next 5 years were going to look like, 10 years. Like, I could see it all starting to form, but I had no evidence that it was going to happen. But I just knew, I was like, I'm going to get a load of tests over the next, 2 years. And some of them I've got to learn like which ones are for me and which ones aren't for me. So I decided, the next few months were really hard because I still had to hold the space of the containers, and I was still—
Had you told people like online?
Yeah. I told people like, I'm going to be shutting down the containers by this point. And so I was selling then shorter versions of containers. So you can join at like a shorter version. And I was doing still a couple of private coachings here and there, but only for like very specific people. But I knew that I had like an end date, and I would say that by the time that we got to like the final closing point, I was burnt out, like really, really burnt out, because I'm a generator, and like the one thing that a generator— The one way
generator too.
The one thing that will burn us out is doing something we don't want to do.
Yeah.
And so although I knew like in the back of my mind, this is temporary, it's still, there's a mindset shift that you've got to have, which is continually telling yourself, this is for me, I'm deciding to do this, not this is happening to me. And, I have to do this. That language is so small, but it makes such a big difference. So I decided to do that. And then pretty much like within a month, this is actually a kind of crazy story how the universe will like give you these like signs and synchronicities. But I had this idea for this membership, and it came through, everything landed, but I was really, really scared to launch it because it was talking on a topic that like I'd never spoken about before. I thought there was going to be judgment on, et cetera, et cetera. And I just put it off. I was just like, you know what, we'll just, put the brakes on a little bit. Maybe there's a right time. And randomly I connected with this person online, and she was like holding events, and we were just like chatting in the DMs, and she was like, hey, why don't we get on a call? So we got on a call together, and we just had this really big chat about, we ended up talking about spirituality, like aliens, like all of this stuff. And like
all I the will things make right up your mind.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just like, if there's a way, I will bring it back to aliens.
Literally, I remember that so vividly. I was like, this bitch loves aliens.
Just like disclosure theory, if I can get it in. Like, literally,
so
whatever conversation somehow I'll slide in, I'll be like, have you heard?
Did you know?
Yeah. So we had this great conversation. We really connected. And at the end, she was just like, I know this is so random, but I actually have a psychic session tomorrow that I can't go to, and I feel like you need it. And I was like, okay. And she was just like, just take it, like whether you can go. And it was in Brisbane, and I live in Gold Coast. And I was just like, sure. And so I cancelled all of my plans the next day, and I decided, okay, I'm going to go to this like random psychic in the middle of nowhere. And so I drove there the next day. It is literally in the middle of like nowhere. Have you seen like those movies that depict, it kind of reminds me of like American Horror Story, where they go into like the circus and everything's like run down, and there's old cars with like vines all over them and everything.
I'm a horror fan.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
picturing it.
Yeah. So like
somewhere
that,
you don't want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's where it basically was like in the middle of the wilderness. And there was another woman that was having her, fortune told, however you would say it, having her session with this guy. And I was just sat there like waiting, feeling like really anxious, like, oh my God, is this like the right thing? Is this like the right place? Am I going to get murdered?
Did you take anyone with you?
No, I just went by myself.
Stressed.
Yeah, literally like full stress. Yeah. Anyway, ended up being fine. He was great. And the first thing that he said to me, because he brings through like your people that have passed on. So the first thing he did was like connected with my nana, who's a very specific personality. He described her to a T, like guessed her name, like first go. He was just like, who's June? And it was my grandmother's name. And I was just like, oh my God, that's so crazy. And then he was just like, you're late for something. And your nana's brought you here because you're late. And I was just like, what? He was just like, you were meant to launch something a month ago. And I was just like, what? And he goes, it's something to do with spirituality, maybe manifestation, and maybe the breath. And he listed all the things that I was literally doing. And I had told very few people about this. And he was like, Hayley, you're late. Like, you have a window of time to get this done and get this out now. And if you don't get this done, and he was like, if you don't get this done, like, this isn't going to work. And he was just like, you need to go right home right now, and you need to post something. Because I was like, I've been putting it off because I'm scared. He was like, your nana has brought you here today. I don't know how she's done it, but she's brought you here today because you needed to hear that you need to do this now. It is the right thing for you. And she wants you to know that you have the full support of the spirit realm, like behind you. This is going to work out. This is going to be big, but you have to move. You have to overcome your discomfort. So I was like, holy shit. There was so much else that like happened in that session, but I was like, that's like a sign. So I literally went home and started posting that day on socials and started
Was
like
this your
growing.
new account?
This was the new account.
And that's the account that freaking blew up.
That blew up.
Yeah.
Within 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like,
wild growth.
yeah.
I was
Crazy growth.
watching it behind the scenes like, what the
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. And I do feel like there is a kind of a spiritual, I can't really describe what it is about the brand and about the message. Like, I don't particularly feel like it's come from me. I feel like it's very much been channeled from elsewhere. Like, that's just one of the situations that I could share about, like how like spirit has intervened and given me exactly what I needed, or like connected me with a person, or has come through with a message from someone else to connect to me. And it very much feels like this is something that is being pushed behind the scenes, but that is what happens when you're in line with like the universe and with like everything that's going on. Is it just accumulates to this like space where you just receive synchronicities, like things just click, and you do start to receive messages from the other side, because that's just kind of the nature of how those things work. But yeah, so decided to pivot everything over. I'm going to stop there for now.
You're like, I will shut up.
Give myself a breath.
I need a drink. Yeah. No, I think that's so I don't know if courageous is the right word. It might not be, but I feel like it takes so much courage to be able to do that, you know, to leave a really steady job at a company that is just growing and growing and growing like Canva, to leave it like at its peak and then to start your own thing, be very successful at that, be very good at that, very skilled. So it's obviously like you can do whatever you put your mind to, but then it's like knowing which one's the right direction to go and then just like trusting that, I guess, like gut intuition of like, this isn't where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
I need to go to the next thing. Do you feel like so now you're on your second thing, building yourself. So you've had the 7-figure coaching business and then now you're building out the app, which we'll get to in a little bit. But do you feel like that was more difficult, or do you feel like it was more difficult going from Canva to working for yourself? Because one, you kind of already had evidence you could work for yourself, or?
That's a really good question. That they were both very different. Leaving Canva was hard because it's what I'd always known, and there was so much stability in a full-time job that even my parents were like, why would you leave this? And I think a lot of people were like working at a unicorn company like that is what everyone really wants. There's so much security. It's so exciting to work there. The people are amazing. Like, it is as good, you know, on the inside as it comes across on the outside.
Yeah.
And so in some ways it really was a dream. So like giving part of that up was difficult, but I guess because, you know, I just had a breakthrough recently where I actually realized that one of my biggest fears is losing my freedom. And that's actually linked to, I'm a Sagittarius and I've got like 5 placements in Sagittarius. And like the biggest thing that often a Sagittarius is fearful of is losing freedom.
I'm a Sagittarius.
Yeah. And you know what's really crazy? So this is such a side tangent, I'm sorry, but I was looking up like, I've got this kind of like, I had this projection of Scorpios and I was just like, oh, Scorpios are like, they must be like really difficult children to have, you know? And so I started researching which was the most difficult sign. And I found this one study that she did this study of all of the mass murderers in the world, like the serial killers. 80% had their sun sign as Sagittarius. 80% of the serial killers.
Is sun the first one?
Yeah, it's like your main one.
Yeah.
And the other was, the final amount was like Capricorn, I think. But it's because there is such a desire to want freedom that people are like willing to rebel and like fight for it. And so when you have like then someone that comes from like trauma or like a background where they're not given any freedom, they get to the point where like something clicks or skips. And actually
fascinating.
Yeah, really, really interesting. So
no one come after us. If
exactly.
anything's in the like news, it's not us. We're not Sagittarius. No, I find that fascinating. I'm actually a Scorpio, the second one. What's the second one? Sun, moon.
You're a Scorpio moon. So that's like how you feel.
Yeah.
And then what's your rising?
I think I'm either a Scorpio or like a Cancer.
Scorpio or Cancer.
Something like
that. Right. Okay. So they're both kind of water signs. So you've got like water. Interesting.
Anyway, so weird. We're both generators and Sagittarius.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why I was drawn to you.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
This person knows me. She gets me.
Yeah, definitely.
What were we talking about? I literally now forget. The transition between leaving Canva, stability.
Yes.
Versus leaving a coaching business to start another thing by yourself.
Yes. So coming back to the reason I got onto the freedom part was when I was at Canva, I felt like I had no freedom, like at all. Like I couldn't control my day. I was working for someone else and I found that incredibly oppressive, even though the company was great. And so there was a constant battle that I had in my mind, which was so heavy. And I burnt out probably every 2 months that I had to like get my mindset around. So although it was amazing, I was ready to leave, even though it probably wasn't the timing. The timing wasn't quite right, but it ended up being like, no, this is right. Like it felt good and I was secure and my business I actually had just gone from a 6K month to like an 80K month USD that month, and it was cash. And so I had like this, it's like I'd been given this like cushioning.
Yeah.
You know, of just like, no,
It
this
was
is the
almost
right
like
thing.
permission of like, that's what you're meant to do.
Exactly. And then it just kept on going up from there. So that was kind of, I guess, easy in that way because it was always the thing that I was going to be doing. I'd probably say that the transition from the thing that was working to the membership or the app has been harder because there wasn't like a definite endpoint. I had freedom. I had already built a business that I was working for myself. I could do what I wanted with my days. I did have full control. So I wasn't feeling suppressed in terms of freedom. And by a lot of like people's opinions, it was giving me more freedom. Like it was giving me money so I could go and travel to where I wanted. Like for a lot of like on the surface paper reasons, it was ticking a lot of my boxes. But it was kind of a way more subtle feeling that I'd had for about a year where I was like, something doesn't feel right and I don't know what it is. And I could never find the root of it / I didn't want to admit it because as soon as you admit it, you're like, I've got to change something.
Then you're like, I've got to actually act on it.
Yeah. And that's really scary because a lot of people say, I don't know whether this is what I want to do. They then look at what it takes to actually change. And it's so much work and it's so much risk. And most people are just like, you know what, I can make this work. I can go back to where I need to be. But I think I had tried to do that a couple of times, but every time that I ended up back in the business and I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it another go. I can make this work. I ended up in the same place. And so it just happened like one too many times. So I was just like, you know what, like something has to shift. And I think that moment on the beach where I did make that declaration to the universe, like I do have like a very, you know, when I say I'm going to do something, I think it's potentially a Sagittarius trait.
Yeah, it is.
Trait as well.
I was going to say, I think that's a Sagittarius.
You know, and we have like a lot of loyalty to people, but also to ideas.
I feel like we have a lot of will.
Yeah.
Like we're like, we will make that happen no matter what. And we've just got that will to make it work.
Exactly. And there's like a level of commitment. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And it's like with people as well. Like if I say I'm going to like do something with someone, I'm going to do it. And I don't know, I think that really helped with like making that decision, even though it didn't like quite make sense, was just this like feeling of I've made a commitment now. Like I've said it out loud. I've said it to my partner. I'm not going to go back on this because I know I'm going to experience the same problem.
How did you feel going with the change on social media? Because you obviously had to step away from something. There's a lot of talks on social media when someone steps away from something, people have a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
Oh, well, like, you know, if they were teaching this and now they're changing, like, were they really meant to be teaching that, this, that, the other, which I think is bullshit. But how did you internally deal with that? Did you have to step away from social media for a bit? I think you did step away for a little bit, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so how was that?
Well, I think the one thing that was unique about the situation was that although it was a pivot, I was teaching inner authority already in a lot of my programs. So I think people already knew that I was associated with that topic.
I wasn't shocked when it happened. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
Exactly. I'd be saying all my calls. I was just like, you don't have a strategy issue.
The only thing that we ever talked about, not because I didn't need the strategy when I hired you. That wasn't what I hired you for, even though you were the marketing person. Like that's not what I hired you for. I hired you for the inner work. Yeah. And a lot of what we did together was me just crying to you. And I was just like bawling my eyes out a lot of the time. Yeah. And I feel like, so when it happened, like I wasn't shocked. I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like that's what she's meant to be doing. Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people were that shocked, to be honest. Like I think it almost felt like it was, I wonder whether people could see it before I could see it. Like my friend Erin, she'd been saying for about a year and a half, she was just like, you need to be doing something with spirituality. Like you need to be doing something, this is not what you're meant to be doing. And I had a lot of resistance and frustration to that, if I'm totally honest. I was just like, why all up in my face?
Stop it.
Like, stop trying to tell my future. But she was bang on, you know, and I think sometimes people can see what you're really passionate about and even where conversations go. Like, you know, even when I talk about aliens, right, it's about consciousness really. Like that's really what I'm interested in. I'm interested in consciousness. I research consciousness, plasma, how it interacts with the nervous system. Like that's what I'm interested in. And that's why conversations end up there, because I'm fascinated by it. My conversations don't end up in like, you know,
strategy.
Like
here's how to tweak your hook.
Yeah, exactly. Like 5 hooks for you. Yeah, I'm like, I don't care. I don't really care about that stuff. Like I see the difference and the impact that it can make, but it's not what sets my soul on fire. But yeah, the biggest thing was, so I started posting on this new Instagram account because my current Instagram account, like I'd grown it to about 20,000 and it just wasn't growing any further. And I think I just had this connection to it. I was like, I just don't feel like this is the account. So everyone told me that I should have just stayed on that account, but I was like, no, I'm going to start this new account and I'm just going to start posting every single day. And for 3 months, I got no traction, like none. You can go back and look at the analytics, like for the first 3 months, and this was every single day I posted for 3 months, and I was getting like 100, 200 views on every single one. And there was nothing that was moving. But I was so I'd set up this app, and there is something called the devotional practice, which lives inside of the app. And so I was doing the devotional practice every single day, almost using myself as a case study of just like, what will happen if I do this every single day? And what it does is it regulates your nervous system, but it also keeps your mindset very strong. Because what a lot of people will do when they try to pivot or when they try to start a new account is they'll try posting for maybe a month and it won't work. And then that can be very disheartening. You get that feeling of like, this isn't working. Maybe I need to try and change my strategy. Maybe something this, maybe you don't have any trust that the future is going to come. And so people stop or they revert or they change their strategy. And if you change your strategy or your niche or even the visual too much, the algorithm doesn't pick you up. It needs consistency, in some kind of a way. And so people kind of like chop the legs off before they've even had a chance to like walk. And what this devotional practice does is it keeps that momentum and that drive and that trust that something's coming, it keeps it alive. And so that was very alive in me for the whole time. And I said to my friend Erin, because she, it was like 2.5 months in, she was just like, girl, I don't know how you're doing this. Like, there's nothing happening. Like, and I was just like, what's crazy? I have this like delusional, it's almost weird. Like I have this delusional belief that I already have 100,000 followers. And I was like, and I know that's crazy to say because I have like 200.
It's like 102.
Yeah, exactly. And she was just like, no, that's great. And I was just like, honestly, it's this devotional practice. Like it's keeping my mindset, but it's also like changing my energy. It makes me want to show up. I'm so excited by it. So I just kept on showing up for 3 months every single day. And it was like 3 months, suddenly one started getting traction and then another one started getting traction. And then within like literally 3 weeks, we were at 30K followers and it just snowballed so fast. And now we're at like 80K and it's been like just over a year. And I still have this like, now the delusion's changed that I'm like, oh, I have 200K followers. I'm just constantly living. Yeah. I'm just constantly living in delusion. But I think that there is, when you learn about manifestation, there is something about when you manifest from like the 3D or when you create and take action from the 3D, it's very logical. You think like, I've got to take all of these steps. And then when I get, in 3 years time, that's logically going to make sense for when I'm going to like blow up and have that amount of followers. But when you're manifesting from like, 5D or really what it is like, it's fast manifestation is like when you are tapping into a timeline which your future self is already living, where you're already feeling the feelings of what your future self would feel. So that delusion that I'm talking about is just the certainty that my future self already feels. And that's what Dr. Joe Dispenza's work is all about. Like his work is entirely about remembering the feelings of your future today. So it's a remembrance.
Kind of similar. I mean, it's not the same. Like we do similar work just through different, obviously, like modalities and ways that we get there.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar. I did a video the other day about, I said act as if, where it's like I've never actually known what was going to happen or if things were happening. I've just always acted as if it was already going to happen. I just hadn't found the solution yet.
Yeah.
Do you think like, because I feel like if you act that way, then it's like you'll keep going even with setbacks because you're like, oh, well, it's already happened. I just haven't found the solution yet.
Yeah.
And it's a much more forward-focused mindset rather than like, for me, I know it's inevitable that things will happen.
Yeah.
It just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So it's like, is that the same thing?
Yeah, it is. And I think that yet is really important because I think there is something, I think there's a study that says like it takes like at least 15 failures before you get a success. And most people are looking for like success on the first couple of goes and it just doesn't work like that. In fact, it's the people that fail first that usually are more successful, and there's studies to show that as well. I think they took like a pool of about 10,000 students, and the ones that actually got grants straight out of university ended up doing worse than the people that didn't get grants and actually failed first, because it gave people that failed more of a drive to continue working and reaching further. So there is definitely something just in like our the way that our brains work, which is like failure just makes us stronger. It makes us more resilient. And so there is an inevitability that we're going to get to where we want to go. But I think there is like something that comes above that, which is it's a feeling, it's a remembrance of feelings of the future, which is, it's a very like subtle, if you think about like what's something that you are working towards at the moment?
Great question. I'm kind of in like a weird bit of an evolution at the moment where that's actually unclear to me.
Yeah. Okay.
What I am working towards.
Okay. So let's say that one of the goals was like, you want this podcast to like blow up and you want to be.
That actually is. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Podcast.
Yeah. So amazing. Like podcast like becomes like global sensation and, you end up interviewing some incredible guests. Me again.
Here we
Return.
are. Already happened.
Yeah. When you think about that future, what like Joe Dispenza's work and like remembering the feelings of your future requires you to do is really thinking and tuning into the feeling that you have in your body in the future of already having that goal. And so there's a level of like, typically when you achieve those things, you're going to feel excited, you're going to feel expanded, you're going to feel certain, you're going to feel sure. There is an elevated feeling of like gratitude. It's these, if you look at, there's a map of consciousness that people talk about, which has like every single emotion basically has like a different rating in terms of like consciousness. And so the ones that are like near the top, which is basically where like 5D is, are these more ones which are like love, expansion, confidence. It's these more, expanded emotions that allow you to, you vibrate literally on a faster frequency, and then like attracts like, you will then attract in situations of a faster frequency as well. Versus if you're sat today thinking, I don't have what I want in the future right now, and so therefore I start feeling lack, and you start saying, I'll be happy in the future when I get this, you're going to start vibrating on a lower frequency. Therefore, like attracts like, you attract in lower frequency results, because you're constantly thinking like, I don't have this yet. You're actually more in a state of lack and fear than you are in certainty. And that's the feeling that you want to. So it's kind of like the difference between like the mindset shift of like, we need to be able to fail forward, but then there's the emotional, energetic side, which is like this feeling of like, I already have this, like it's already done. Like I feel it in my body, and you aren't going into sentences of like, when I get there, or I don't have this yet, which creates separation. It actually makes the process longer rather than like choosing it right now. So like when I was growing, I just had this feeling of, I am certain that this is going to happen. And it felt like I was already in my future. I can't explain it any other way. And this is, again, a little bit of a tangent, but my sister is a guitarist for Machine Gun Kelly. And
I'm obsessed. I'm seeing him in April. I'm so excited. Yes,
I'll see you there. And what's really interesting, I did an interview with her where I was talking about like her journey, and I really grilled her on like a few like topics. And one of the topics that I asked her was just like, how did you know that like this was going to happen? And she was like, what's really strange is like, I just always knew that my success was inevitable. And she's literally talking about the same thing, which is she never in her mind doubted that it was going to happen. She was almost already living it. And so, because she started in her bedroom, just like no one understood what she was doing. She was making little videos and like uploading them to her YouTube. No one was really watching them. Like everyone thought she was really cringe. Until one day it started working. And then she blew up in her own right. She's got over 1 million like subscribers, followers and everything now. And then, this unison with Coulson and MGK ended up happening, which was incredible. But that was a manifestation because my sister, she had just this certainty that like it was going to happen. Like there wasn't any room of like doubt or even lack of like, when I get there, then I'll be happy. She was just so content with being in the present moment of just like, I'm so happy with my life right now, but I also know I'm going to be over there soon.
Yeah, it's almost like that gratitude. It's the frequency that you go into of like abundance, gratitude, love. You were just so happy to be in the moment doing the thing you love. You know that you would do it regardless of outcome, But also because you're in that state, you then know the outcome is inevitable and it's just going to happen. So it's like the double-edged sword. But I think with that, even if I think about this podcast, I have no evidence that this podcast will, you know, be a success or this, that, the other. I'm like, I just want to do it.
Yeah.
There is something in me that is saying you're meant to be having conversations with people. You're meant to be talking with them, doing this. Like that's where you feel lit up. I'm just following that aliveness. I'm following that spark. And if I hadn't put myself in those situations to even book this place and do my first one, like, who the fuck am I to come and do it here? People will be like, that's so cringe. Who is she? And I'm like,
Taylor.
Well, yeah, that's it. I'm just like, well, I'm going to do it anyway because that's what I want to do. And it's almost like then because I did that, it put me in a space to have the opportunities where Lewis came on because I ran into him walking out of my first podcast episode.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, come on.
Yeah.
And I was
amazing.
like, holy fuck. And then that gave me confidence to ask you.
Yeah.
Because I was like, would she say yes or not? And I'm like, well, you've got to start like just taking one step. And then when you sit there long enough, I just was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go ask these people that I actually want to have on.
Yeah.
And I have not received a single no yet,
there
which Jacob's like to me, you need to start getting some no's because you need some rejection therapy. I'm like, I don't want any no. I was like, I'm happy with the yeses. But that's what that reminds me of is like when you purely love something, you're putting yourself in a space to have the opportunities coming to you, but you have to actively seek the opportunities out as well. You can't just like sit back.
Exactly.
And I'm sure like your sister did certain things where maybe she posted a video playing one of his songs as a cover and then maybe his team saw it or you know what I mean? Like there was something.
It was so much more crazy than that.
Do you want to tell it?
Yeah.
You might not be able to, but if you can, you can.
No, yeah. She just sent a message to him like a year before. And he's just spiritual. And so when he was looking for a guitarist, they just saw her profile and saw that she'd already sent a message. And he was just like, this feels serendipitous, you know, let's organize a call. So again, it's like divinely orchestrated, you know,
and
these
she had
things.
to put herself out there to do that. But she just wasn't even worried if it would be a no.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just like, I just love this.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there is something about being in the energy of passion and like following your passion, but like in passion is action. Like if you aren't taking action, like manifestation requires action. Like a lot of manifestation teachers just like, you just need to receive and like it will come to you, which is just not true. Like you do need to, even when you're doing healing, like the full integration after healing comes with an action. It comes with like are you taking a different action to like stretch your capacity in some way? That's when you solidify like your next identity.
Yeah, you'll have the fork in the road moment and it will be like old self, upgraded self.
Exactly.
Like which one would you like to take? And you have to actively choose that new one.
Exactly. And a lot of people get stuck in healing because they're just like, I'm doing all the healing work, but like nothing's changing. It's like, have you taken any different action than the one you've always been taken? Because if you haven't, like nothing's going to change. Like you've got to at some stage push yourself to feel that edge of discomfort. And that's also the difficult thing with all of this is like every single thing that you want that is currently, you don't know how it's going to happen and that people think you're crazy for is going to require you to be very uncomfortable in some instances. Like you booking this podcast studio before you ever know, like it's uncomfortable stuff. Me posting and like dealing with people seeing me like fail every single day for 3 months.
When
like,
you're a really successful coach and then like posting and having 100 views, like your ego is like, oh shit.
Yeah, and you just got to like stay in the discomfort. You got to stay the course. Like when things don't go to plan, like when, you know, something that you think is going to be a real hit doesn't launch properly or, you know, isn't what you thought it was going to be. Like if you listen to some of the richest people in the world, like they have had so many failures, like so many times that they have encountered things like not working. And all of those times are so uncomfortable. And it's often even harder to actually get yourself back up again, 100%. To try again, because then, you know, we all have these kind of internal perceived beliefs of like, what are people going to think of me if I try again?
Yeah.
And that's really hard to like come through because like it's all in your mind. Like actually no one really cares. Like I actually don't know whether anyone was watching me. Like the irony was like in those 3 months, I posted a lot about like the new Instagram account on my coaching page. No one was interested. Like no one from that account followed over until I started having followers. And they were like, oh, okay, now I'll take this seriously. And it's just that thing that you sometimes have to like bet on yourself and like have the discomfort of it feeling like it's not working before you actually get a result. Because like it's always going to happen. Like whether it's that you're starting a new skill, you're trying a new hobby. Like I'm trying to learn like a different style of filming at the moment, which physically makes me feel sick.
What is it?
It's like with different camera shots. So I'm trying to do like more
like storytelling
one,
cool.
which I've always wanted to do. And I want to do a series with it. But like, my God, it makes me so uncomfortable because I don't know how to get the right angles and the right shots. And I'm leaning on my friends and being like, how would you?
Oh my God, I will come and help you. That would be so cool.
Yeah, let's do it. But like, you know, it's very much like I have the stories all mapped out. I know what I want to tell, but it's like, it's the using the camera that is just, it's a new skill. Yeah. And I think we have to accept that sometimes like when you're doing something different, like you're going to suck for a while and that's going to feel uncomfortable and, you know, whatever. Like when I first started posting on this new Instagram, when I go back through the content, I'm like cringing. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah. But if you're not cringing though, like, are you even evolving?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I look back at so many things. I even was listening back to some of my first podcasts and I was like, should I go and delete those? I was like, oh my God, like they're so cringe. But it's like, what? We've got to learn. You've got to learn somehow. Like I listened back to my first podcast I did with my first guest and I was like, oh, like cringing at, you know, I would butt in and this, that, the other. And I'm like, okay, like I've got some room to grow and learn here. But I think that's so cool of like, you have to put yourself in those positions to let pride, ego get in the way so much. And that's something that what I was saying with you, I think it's so much courage because like you just haven't let your pride and ego come in. And I think that is something a lot of people really struggle with.
Yeah, I will say as well, there's a really big part of this, which is the people that you surround yourself with and the group that you're in on social media.
So true.
And I actually, what I think stopped me for a long time, and you'll know this because we were kind of in similar groups, or I was just on the outside, you were very much in one of the groups. Yeah. It's very consuming when you're constantly consuming other people's content that are saying that there's one way of doing things, and if you're not doing it that way, then you're wrong.
Yeah.
And the time that I actually decided to pivot, I'd actually intentionally muted everyone. And so it had been about like 4 months that I had no one else in my head. And it was just me of like, what do I want to do? And I think that also, because I wasn't fearful of how I was going to remain in the group or like fit in or anything, I was just acting independently and just being like, I have great friends. My friends love me. And this is the business. And I'm just acting on my passion. That just allowed me the like permission to go after this thing, even if it's something that I was going to be speaking about fringe things about. And even, you know, going into areas where I'm talking more about like science, which I hadn't really spoken about too much before, but I actually love like the science of. Now it's in like most of my work, but it never had been before. And I think giving myself permission to talk on these different topics and do strategy different and not having like a certain group of people or a portion of the internet stop you or slow you down is incredibly freeing. And actually that's what having the new Instagram account also gave me, that like separation as well. I was like, you know, I don't need to like.
It's like you're out of that bubble now and it's almost like that self-permission of like, hey, I think this is something that stops a lot of people from evolving, actually, like myself included. And that was a part of the reason I came to you, was like to get out of that bubble because you weren't in the bubble. And I was like, oh, like I need to, you know, start thinking for myself. I feel like I've completely lost the ability and confidence to do so. And so I feel like, even just like that permission with a new account, it sounds so crazy. And anyone who hasn't been through it doesn't know, but you get caged into like that's the way of doing it. That's how and no one's making you do it. It's all an internal prison that you're living in. And I have been stuck there. And I noticed like I have a second account and I can just post whatever the fuck I want on there. I don't really care. It's just fun. I don't do it for anything other than fun. But it's like so interesting, the mindset of when I post on that account versus when I post on my main account. And it's so interesting. So would you recommend people do that? Like get out of their bubble or like audit the people around them?
100%. I think it's something, honestly, that we should all be doing because you do become the 5 people that you hang around or consume from the most.
Yeah.
And I've been through periods where friendships have like fallen away because they're not able to be supportive of like where I'm going or what I'm doing. But also I very much had a time where I was like in a bubble myself And it puts you in a fawn response. It's a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And it's people pleasing response where like you just want to be a part of the group. You want to be accepted. And so it stops you from fully doing the things that are in alignment with you because you're constantly thinking about the group first. What's going to stop me being chucked out of the group? And there is, I think, I had like a rebellion. You saw my rebellion phase where I got really angry for a while. And I was like, I started creating all of these like graphs and about like feminine authority and toxic authority and trying to like express like what I was feeling, which I actually think helped a lot of people. I think it's part of the reason that you ended up working with me, because I kind of was able to analyze like what was actually going on in certain industries where like, if you do have someone that speaks to their audience in a certain way, it can put a lot of people in a fawn response, which means that you're never taking action from an aligned place. You're always taking ego action because you're always doing action and thinking about, is this going to help me to fit in? And I truly don't think that the universe, the creator, like whatever you want to say, will allow you to blow up in something that is not meant for you.
100%.
I think it will always hold you back.
Yeah.
And so until you're like in full alignment and you don't have any of those thoughts and you're not thinking or creating from what someone else wants you to create or what you think is going to get you approved of or whatever, you will be held back. And I think I was held back because it wasn't the topic I was meant to be talking on. It wasn't in the right area. It wasn't on the right account, And I think as soon as I did create that kind of boundary between myself and other people, it just allowed me to create so much more freely. And I think that should be the case with everyone. It's like, if you need to go through a stage of unfollowing every single person so you're at 0 on your account, do it.
Yeah.
Like, do it.
Yeah, I think people are so afraid that pack mentality is really big when you're building a personal brand. No matter what type of business you have, you're always going to find the little cliques and niches and when everyone is friends with everyone. And then, are you in the in-group? Are you on the outside, etc.? And I think if I look back to any time I've ever felt the freest, like freedom is my, like, I absolutely value that so much. And I am such a rebellious thinker and rebellious person. And I noticed when I came into a certain space, it's not that the space was wrong or anything. It was who I became in the space. And that fawn response, like you said, and I completely lost all ability to have my own thoughts without, it was like I couldn't do it because it was wrong. Like I wasn't allowed to be the way I was and I had to change and be different. And that I think so many people get caught in because they think they have to do it the way someone else has done it. But I really believe, and like just watching you, and you're such an inspiration of like, yes, you can do it that way and you can be successful doing it that way. And I was very successful. But when you come back to yourself, I've always found it's that remembrance, when you come back to who you are, when you rebel against like what's out there telling you to be who you need to be and you actually be who you want to design, who you create, things will flow, things will feel easier. So it's like, of course there's hard work. Of course there's going to be resistance because anything in life has, if you want something, you got to persevere and fail and all that. But if it does feel like, how would you get someone to tell the difference between resistance of like, okay, we need to like fail a bit more and build up your like resilience here versus this is fucking unaligned. You are not meant to be here. Like, how do you tell the difference?
So I think there is, you need to be able to like know your own body. But if someone is typically experiencing like resistance in terms of discomfort and it's just something new, that's typically where a lot of like sabotaging patterns will come up. So avoidance, procrastination, you start to feel overwhelmed, like you're trying to take action. You want to take action, but you feel so overwhelmed. It's a nervous system response. It's your nervous system being like, this is an edge. We haven't encountered this before. This is usually where like there's some kind of fear coming up. I call it new level, new devil. So like when you are trying something new, that's a new level, a new devil mindset block or, nervous system response will basically appear. And so that can take the form of like, if you're trying to, launch a podcast and you've never launched one before, and suddenly you've got all this fear of like, what are people going to think of me? That's going to be subconscious, but it's going to be down here in your nervous system. And there's going to be something in your nervous system that's saying, it's not safe for me to expand. It's not safe for me to be seen because when I was younger, I had this experience and that taught me that if I'm seen, I'm going to get judged, I'm going to get criticized. And that will be really, really painful and I might die. Like that's where our nervous system goes. And so it creates this response, which is then discomfort, which then causes us to self-sabotage. If it's that, typically you can regulate your nervous system. You can work with some of the practices like, to remove manifestation blocks, and you should be able to take that action. And typically, although it's uncomfortable, when you sit in the discomfort for long enough, eventually it turns into something else, because emotions are like a wave. They're actually not meant to last much longer than like 10 seconds. And so it's often the resistance of feeling the discomfort that actually creates more of the discomfort and makes it last for longer. Versus if you're just actually out of alignment with something, there is like, it's almost like a deep feeling of something's not right. And so like you may be able to take action, but there's something in the back of your mind which is saying, this doesn't feel right. And I don't know whether this is for me. Or if you are feeling all of the procrastination and you're still having that in the back of your mind, like you need to be able to take a step so that then you can see, like, does this feel right? Because we're all going to have in our bodies, like we're all like creatures that have, like, whether you believe in human design or not, we all have like a astrological placement. We all have like human design. We have these unique energies that are for us. And if we don't learn to honor those and tune into like our intuition, it's literally just going to like, it's going to rule the show without us having any knowledge of it. So like we need to be able to understand what is a yes and a no for me. And like it is just, you'll feel it in your gut. You're just like, something's not right. Like this doesn't feel good.
I feel like it's a gut feeling.
Yeah.
It's like that inner knowing, and I feel like we get them for a reason, but we choose to ignore them. It's like I actually had a call the other day with a client, and it's so funny, like, yes, I'm a business and branding person, but she was actually asking me about a relationship that she's in because the work's all interconnected. And she was like, how do I know, that I can trust my gut? And I'm like, well, we get taught not to trust our gut because of the head noise that comes in and all of the conditioning. And I'm like, but if we walk down an alley and we like look down that alley and it's like pretty dark and it looks scary as shit, and maybe there's a man down there, and we're like, what's your gut going to tell you? Your gut's going to be like, do not walk down that fucking alley. Yeah. Like, absolutely not. And we listen to that because it has an inner knowing and we can trust it, but we learn not to trust it. So yeah, I love that so much. I want to come back to, with your sister and you're both very successful. And I had this question down that I wanted to ask you. What do you think? It's so rare to me that I see two siblings being successful. I think do you have a brother?
No.
Do you have any other siblings, or is it just you two?
Just us two.
Okay. So what do you think that is from your upbringing? Like, was it something that was instilled in you guys? Was it something you learned at school maybe? Or because it's very rare that you get two people being successful in one family, from what I've seen anyway.
Yeah. I think there was, I'm actually not sure. I think there was definitely, my father definitely made us feel like women could do anything. Like he very much supported my mum in setting up her own business, and, it's a little Pilates business. And he was very supportive of that. So I do think that there was something where he gave us like, and my mum, like this kind of, if you put your mind to it, like you can do whatever you want. Like he was very supportive of me going to Australia. And so I think there was just this instilling of like, yeah, do what you want. Like, of course, like doesn't matter if you're a woman, you can do it.
It's almost like self-trust, like to do what you wanted.
I think so. And there was definitely like, he had his own fears, which kind of contradicted that. But I think there was that like very deep, just, yeah, you can do what you want. Like you're both capable, like you can do what you want. But I think for me, like we both had very different like experiences. Like my sister was the one that was brought up and everyone knew was very naturally intelligent. And so she was the smart one. And like Sophie's going to go to Harvard. She's going to, be like a scientist. And she was just very that. I, on the other hand, was the artist.
Opposite.
Yeah, the opposite growing up. Like I loved art. I loved to
you guys have switched now.
We've switched.
That's so wild.
Yeah. And so I do want to, I was often told, like I remember when I was at university, and I think because I'd maybe not tried as hard, and I was misdiagnosed with dyslexia when I was younger instead of ADHD. And I think because I'd always had like, I'd had to try so much harder than Sophie. I think everyone just kind of saw me as like, I'm not that smart, but like she's great at art. she's good with a paintbrush. Yeah. she's, just give her a paintbrush. She'll be happy. And I was just like, sounds good to me. So went to university for, design. And then in my final year, I sort of realized, I might be able to get an A here. And I remember telling my parents, and one of them said to me, they were just like, oh, Hayley, you should just be happy with a D. And I was like,
whoa,
this has instilled me with a fire I can't extinguish.
Yeah.
And I had this really big need to prove that I was smart. And I still have it. Like one of my biggest triggers that I've had to overcome is feeling like I'm stupid.
Yeah.
And my memory used to be, with ADHD, like my memory used to be terrible. That's why I was diagnosed with dyslexia and potentially dyspraxia, because I couldn't remember two numbers together. I couldn't remember them. It just leave my mind. And so I've really had to work hard to like rebuild my memory and rebuild my mind, which I think a lot of, I used to be an addict. I used to be an alcohol addict. And I think that killed a lot of my brain cells like when I was younger. And so when I stopped drinking and my social anxiety got worse and I needed to undo all of the damage that I'd done, I really did have to rebuild my brain. And that looked like a lot of brain training, like forcing myself onto like I never used to be able to do this, like just riff. I used to always have to have a script because I couldn't think of
questions,
Yeah, like I couldn't think ahead. And so I think there's been like this fire that I've had to like prove that I'm smart enough, but also that I do have actually a lot of these interests in like science that I think because I was pigeonholed when I was younger, that I was creative, I didn't really allow myself to explore because it was just, oh, well, that's not who I'm meant to be. And I think the same thing happened for my sister. Like my sister is also kind of a rebel where she was told she wanted to do this and she very much was just like, no, I'm going to be a musician.
Yeah.
And so we have kind of switched where like I've ended up coming more into the sciences and like going down the more like intellectual side of things. Whereas my sister's really gone down into like the creative side of things and we have completely switched. So I do wonder whether there's almost been a rebellion on both sides where we've both been like, we want to prove our parents wrong in some way.
I think there's always like some type of rebellion and it's super interesting. So many things in that, like, I see myself in like, I wasn't smart in school and now I absolutely love learning. Like I love to learn. I'm watching Stanford biology like 101. It's like on YouTube, by the way. Anyone wants to watch it, go watch it. But it's like, I just love learning for the sake of learning. But I think anyway, that's really interesting. I'm not going to go into that because we like are running out of time. But I do think that's interesting that, you have also the addict background because like me too, but in a different way. Mine was like more eating disorders type vibe.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of successful people actually have something similar to that. And it's so interesting where, a life-defining moment is like you can either continue down that path or change that path. So I think that's even really cool of how, you were able to turn your life around.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there kind of comes I think for everyone you get to like a rock bottom point, like where things like really need to change. And mine was very dramatic and not glamorous at all. And I've had to do a lot of healing on a lot of it. And I've had PTSD and I've had to, the reason that I now teach people to, remove manifestation blocks or just blocks and triggers from the bottom of their body is because I was so filled with them that it like stopped me doing everything. Like the why that still makes me cry to this day is mental health. And like I almost lost my life to mental health and to addiction. And because my mind was such like a dark place, it was so busy, it was so chaotic. I hated myself. I hated what I looked like. I would look in the mirror, I'd feel physically sick looking at my appearance. I once like overfilled my face completely with like filler. So I looked like really had to get it like all dissolved and everything because I was just trying to change myself. I hated everything about myself and, got to like a place where I was like, I just don't think I want to be here anymore. And that was like a real, wake up call to be like, okay, something has to change. And I do have an addictive personality and I needed to replace that addiction with something.
Yeah.
So
heal into something healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it became F45. So I was going to 2 F45s a day.
That's like me. That's exactly what I did. Put it into health and fitness. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard. Like you've got to kind of fill a space with something. But I think in all of that, like it's helped me to really understand where I'm passionate about because in our struggle is usually where we end up, whether it's teaching or we end up, Absolutely. It's the why that makes us cry because we've lived it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why a lot of entrepreneurs or coaches or whatever, they have these stories because they come so close to a place where like they almost lose everything in some capacity. And when that happens, it lights this fire. Like passion is actually often driven from anger. Like they're very connected, like emotions. And so often when you're very passionate about something, it's because you've experienced a lot of pain around something, or if you've experienced something that's like wronged you. And when you experience that, you fuel all of that like anger, pain, frustration into something positive. And I think that's why a lot of people have those stories, because they want to make the experience that they've had make sense and make them worth it.
And have meaning and go on to like impact other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So great segue into, we'll finish up here. Tell us about your app.
Yeah, so the app is basically to help you expand your capacity to hold more wealth, visibility, and success, specifically around those things, because they're the areas that I've mainly worked with, like entrepreneurs. And the thing that I see at every single level, like I'm in a mastermind at the moment with people that are making millions of dollars from like memberships. And the big thing that still comes up at that level, it's not strategy. It's like, okay, I'm doing this really big Facebook ad launch and I'm investing a load of money and I feel so dysregulated and I feel so anxious and I feel so overwhelmed. It's a nervous system problem. It has nothing to do with actually doing the action. We can often take ourselves to do the action, but like, do you have the capacity to sustain it? And most of the time when people are trying to go after success, visibility, more money, it isn't the actions that you're taking that will dictate the result. It's going to be the fuel that you have inside of you. It's going to be your nervous system's capacity. I call it your inner authority. It's your window of tolerance. And all of us have this window of tolerance in our nervous system. We've got like this safe zone, which is where whatever we're doing in this safe zone, it feels normal. So like we've all got these things. We go to the shop, we go to the jobs that we've always gone to, we speak to the people that we've always known. And then as soon as you do something that's outside of this, you start to feel a little bit uncomfortable and you start to feel like, oh, that's an edge. You know what? I want to feel safe. And so you ping back and you don't allow yourself to go and meet new people. You don't allow yourself to go out for dinner by yourself. You don't allow yourself to set up the new business. You don't allow yourself to start the new Instagram account or start creating the different piece of content that you want to create, because you're searching for comfort. And that's the window of tolerance. We're in that neutral zone. But actually, if you can increase your window of tolerance to hold more of that discomfort, so discomfort doesn't feel like it's putting your nervous system into such an extreme place that it goes into complete fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, you can do so much more. So within the app, I've basically taken the 6 principles of In Awe, and I basically created this daily devotional practice that incorporates all of them. It works on 2 levels, which is your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. So within the app, there are daily breath flows. So the first principle is regulate. If you are not regulated, manifesting from a dysregulated place is pretty much impossible. Like it's so hard because your nervous system, if it's constantly on, then you're constantly in a fear state. And as we talked about that map of consciousness, that means you're going to be vibrating very low. You're going to then attract in very low vibrational things, which is then going to stretch out the amount of time it's going to take you to get to where you want to go. So you need to regulate and there's a lot of actually new research that's coming out about like how plasma, which is 99.99999% of the universe, interacts with consciousness. So think about this 3D reality that we're in right now is like less than 1% of reality. That's how real it actually is. The majority is this plasma. And there is new research to show that the way that plasma engages with consciousness, which is us, which is in the 4D realm, it's built of our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, the things that are like subconscious that we don't think like have any meaning. There is now research to start to show that plasma responds to resonance. And resonance is a neutral nervous system. So the more resonance we have in our nervous system, the more plasma wants to play with us. The more plasma starts to change your reality. It starts to respond to you. It's
that's cool.
Fascinating. So regulation is one of them. You've then got removing blocks. If you have blocks in your body, so that regulation part again, if you're constantly being triggered, so if you're constantly trying to take an action in your nervous system and you get overwhelmed and you sabotage, that's not something you can mindset your way out of. You need to remove the block from your nervous system, because at some stage in your life, something has been blocked and stuck in your nervous system. And it's, the way that I say is like kind of crude, but imagine if you're shot. if that bullet just stays in you, and that's what happens when we have an experience, right? Our nervous system shocks. And then it's like the bullet just stays in there. It's not surgically removed. So it just stays in there. What happens? Scar tissue forms around it, but then it can end up being really sore. So if anyone touches it, you're like, oh, don't touch that. It's the same thing that happens with these manifestation blocks. So if we don't remove or complete these fight or flight responses, which is actually very simple for us to do, then they just remain in there, and that's what creates a trigger. So when we're triggered, a younger version of us comes online. So it's not actually us today, it's the 5-year-old version of us that's being like, no, I don't feel safe doing that. No, you don't. It comes up, whether it's through avoidance or it's through conflict, whatever it is, it comes up to protect us in some way. So if we're not removing those blocks, then we can't actually do anything with that. The third thing is energetic cleansing. This is about clearing your energetic vessel. So if your vessel is like filled with toxins, if you are constantly drinking alcohol all the time, if you're constantly numbing yourself with like medicines or anything like that, this also comes into the connections that you have with other people. So like me and you right now, we're talking, we have like cords of light, like the people in the room right here, we have cords of light with each other. We have a connection that doesn't just sever when we walk out the door. And so often when people start to manifest something, they can actually start to manifest from someone else's energy because they're still attached to other people. Like if you ever get off a call and you suddenly feel really low, it's typically not your feeling. You've attached to another part of someone else and you're dragging that feeling around. So
it's like that enmeshment with someone else's system.
Exactly. And so like there's an energetic hygiene that I believe is as important as brushing your teeth every single day, to remove all of that debris, to disconnect from people, but also to keep your vessel clean, because that is going to allow you to manifest the most. Because it's like, if you imagine manifestation, like we are a stream. If we have loads of toxins in our bodies, we are cluttered. We have there is a blockage in the stream that needs to be removed. So that's that part of it. Then we've got, what do we have? We have follow your passion. So the passion is the action taking part. And this is where if you aren't following your passion, then there's research also to show that plasma loves play. And so when it really responds to play energy. So when you are just in a state where you're playing, you're just doing the stuff that you love, things start to move really quickly. But in that is action. So I always say there is no attraction without action. If you aren't able to take action, then you're not going to be attracting anything in. These things are intrinsically linked together. Another thing is feeling the future feelings. So this is a lot of Joe Dispenza's work, but we need to be consciously choosing to feel more of the feelings from the future than we are of scarcity and fear. So this is not a bypassing thing. This isn't you don't feel what it is that you're experiencing today, because we've got the remove blocks part. That requires you to feel, but this is the part where it's you intentionally need to choose to feel and remember the feelings of the future. Gratitude, love, you want to feel those in your body. You want to feel your heart space expand. And the last one is positive speak. And that's the way that we speak to ourselves. A lot of people, when they're doing a lot of healing work, they'll often get trapped in these cycles of healing, and then they start to feel really negative. I've done it myself. If you aren't intentionally planting words into your mind, you will slip into that place every single time. And so this is also I always find it amazing when people implement, I call it an authority activating script. When people implement this activating script, within 7 days, the things that are in their script are starting to come into their life. And that is because it interacts with something called the reticular activating system, which is the brain's filter. And when our brain is there are millions of bits of information that are processing, all of that stuff, 99.99% that we can't see is hitting us all the time. Our brain, out of the millions of bits that are coming in, processes between 50 and 150 bits. That's it. That's all we recognize.
That's all we have the capacity for.
Yeah, that's it. And if we are unconscious, our brain decides that for us. Whereas if we can start to change that through something like an authority activating script and implementing positive speak, we will start to shift the way that we are viewing the world. We'll start to change our reticular activating system and our filter to attract in more of the things that we believe and that we're training ourselves to believe versus the things that we don't. So if you constantly wake up and you're just, it's so hard to grow on social media because of the people around you, and it's the default thing you hear, that will become your reality. Whereas if you want to become delusional, like I have done, where I'm ready to totally get this, you need to start telling yourself, not just that you're at, whatever follower count, but that It's more about the characteristics of the person that's already there. I'm the kind of person that shows up every single day. I love making content. It makes me feel so happy.
Yeah, if you had 200K followers,
how would you be feeling?
Yeah,
exactly. And so it's those things that you want to be saying to yourself every single day. And so I've worked with thousands of people now, and no matter what level people are at, if they implement these 6 things within 6 weeks, their reality will start shifting. And that's almost like within 7 days, you'll notice a difference because of the regulation. It just will happen. Like I've got so many testimonials, I don't even know what to do with them at the moment.
Good problem to have.
Good problem to have. But in like 6 weeks, things will start shifting if you commit to it. And so it's really become like this incredible like movement of people that are like, okay, the brand's called In Awe. Like we're in awe of what we are capable of as humans. When we start to just do these very simple things. So within the app, there's daily breathworks. There's long, deep reprogrammings, which basically take you on the journey to remove subconscious blocks from your body, from your mind, from your nervous system. And all of the different parts that I've just gone into. There's a whole course in there on manifestation and different tools to help you understand where your blocks are and how to like go in there and remove it. And yeah, I basically put like, I'd say probably 5 years of research into one app. And it's been a labor of love, but...
and it's out. It is out. People can get it.
Yes, it's out now.
All right. Yeah. So tell everyone where they can find you. Do they search it in the app? Do they come find you on Instagram? Is that all you have going on? Are there other places, or is it this one hub?
It is this one hub. If you just come to In Awe Manifestation on Instagram, that's probably the best place. But otherwise, you can go to the App Store and it's just In Awe Breath and Manifest. And you can download the app, have a little browse around. If the cart is open, if the cart is closed, then you can sign up to the wait list, which is just on the website. But we're just about to open the carts again. So we're going to be open and shutting it this year. So, but yeah, that is the main thing that I'm doing at the moment. And I'm just, one of the things that you said earlier was like, sometimes you have to turn down things to like.
It's like the pullback era.
Yeah.
You're like pulling something back to like shoot further ahead.
Exactly. And like, I'm getting so many people that ask me for like private coaching and for all of these different things. And it's in that phase that you've got to be like, oh, that would be so easy. It would be so nice. But is it pulling me away from, it's that universal test again. So yeah.
I love this. So one last thing and we'll wrap it up. One piece of advice, if someone is sitting in the same position that you were in at any stage where it was like you knew there was something else you wanted to do, but you didn't want to leave the safety of where you were, what would you give them advice on? And it's obviously nuanced, but if you could give a piece of wisdom.
Oh, that's a good question. Let me ask my higher self.
What would she say?
I'd say 2 things. Can I give 2 things?
You absolutely can.
I'd say number 1, make a plan. Like, I know that we're talking about the energetic side of things, but sometimes having a plan allows you to take the action that you need to take.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that really allowed me to take that action was making a plan of like, okay, what would this look like? How much money do I need to have set aside?
The logical side.
Side. Because we can't like discount that. That's very important. But the second part is, if you're having that niggle, it's not going to go. And like at some stage, you're going to have to take a risk. You're going to have to feel the discomfort of stepping out onto the ledge and not knowing what's there. That's the same for everyone. And so you can either do it now or you can wait another 5 years and battle that feeling and then finally get to the same stage that you're still at right now, where it's finally enough is enough. But I promise you that feeling's going to have to be dealt with at some stage. But the biggest thing that you need to overcome is discomfort, fear of discomfort. I would actually say it's people's biggest block is fear of discomfort. So regulate your nervous system. If you're feeling dysregulated, come into the app.
Get the app.
do a long breath flow and it will help you to take the action that you want to take.
I love this. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I could just keep talking forever, but we're already over and we have to wrap it up. But thank you so much for being my 3rd official guest. Yay. And I'm sure I will have you back on in the future and see how amazing your app is going, which it already is, but even further. And yeah, if you guys listen to this episode, please tag us. Please let us know what you think. Send us a message. Tag Hayley, tag me, tag In Awe Manifestation, and go and sign up for her app.
Yay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. Bye, guys.